At one of our events last year in the Prestige, we ran an experiment for participants, a simulator that on the surface looked like a game. Half the room was told that they were under a pretend lie serum. They could not say anything true that night. Every story had to be fabricated. The other half could lie or they could tell the truth freely, and no one knew who was who. Some people that came already knew each other, but most didn't. And we mixed them in a variety of ways. Conversations and connections unfolded the way they always do when people are trying to feel each other out. Small talk, personal stories, curiosity, deep reveals, subtle assessments. Who feels solid? Who feels off? Who do I want to keep talking to? What became clear very quickly was this. People were not tracking truth. They were tracking nonverbal coherence. BTW, before we go further, every nervous system has a default way that it organizes under pressure and shows up authentically, where attention goes, how the body holds, whether breath tightens or drops. We built a short somatic skills quiz, you can find it in the description below, that makes those patterns visible. It'll show you how your system tends to show up when challenged and what coherence can look like. Everything I share next will make a lot more sense when you can understand your own embedded pattern. So pause this video, go there, and then come back up and finish watching. Okay, back to the room. The most trusted people that night were not the ones telling the truth. They were the ones whose bodies were settled. Their eyes stayed with the person in front of them. Their breath moved easily. Their posture didn't harden or collapse or waver as the conversations shifted. Their stories, some of them were completely fabricated, and still, people leaned in. By contrast, some people telling actual true stories felt strangely untrustworthy or guarded, not because they were dishonest, but because they were playing this game, and so something in them was wavering. You could feel the internal negotiation, what they should share, what they should hold back, how to see whether or not it was landing. And that wavering showed up in the body long before it showed up in their words. This whole thing is not a statement about morality. It's a statement about how nervous systems work, especially in relational contact with one another. Human beings don't decide based on accuracy first. They decide based on stability. They sense whether the person in front of them is organized enough to stay present when things move or shift or get slightly uncomfortable. If the signal is clean, initial trust forms, and it kind of goes into the next gate of testing. If the signal is split, curiosity collapses, that person might even subconsciously pull back, even if the content, what that person is saying and who they are, is true. What we actually respond to in groups and relationships is not just authority or charisma. It's a felt sense of unity, coherence. The nervous system that can hold its shape while also blending and meeting others and the unfolding conditions, that becomes the reference point for others. And that is identified as the leader. Not because they demanded it or they're trying to lead, but simply by being the least distorted signal in the room. That energetic reality shows up everywhere, in work, in relationships, in leadership, in business. Some of the most skilled, thoughtful, ethical professionals that I have worked with, they struggle to fill their client rosters. They know their work is solid. They care deeply. They don't want to pressure anyone. They don't want to oversell. They may be tired, unsure, or quietly discouraged. And because of that, nothing needs to be spoken for it to be felt. It'll show up in their eyes, in their breath, in the timing of their speech. and in the way that the body half extends and half pulls back when they connect with others. So, for example, if they believe that maybe they're not cut out to be in business for themselves, when they meet a potential client, the other person may feel that sort of wavering, I don't know if I should be doing this or not. And they'll react without knowing what they're reacting to. They just will know that something doesn't quite land. And so they'll decline to work with that person politely. They might say they need to think about it or decide that the timing isn't right or it doesn't feel aligned. Meanwhile, someone else, someone smoother, less skilled, but more internally aligned, has no such trouble. Not because they're better at what they do, but because their body agrees with the invitation they're making. This is really uncomfortable to name, but it's true and it's important. Because truth isn't created only by saying true things. It's created by the body's ability to stay organized, even under wavering or emotions or pressure. All right, so back to the event from the start. This was interesting because one participant named after that she felt the experience was incredibly empowering because it allowed her to reclaim territory that had been taken by deception and betrayal earlier in her life. Oddly, being in a room where a lot of people were lying to her, it allowed her to practice those patterns again and have more range in how she now shows up as a leader. And that matters because many people, once they've been burned, they avoid experiencing any form of that again. So they might avoid influence, power, or uncompromised invitation because those domains for them are still fused with threat or harm in the body. They associate them with manipulation or damage, and so they stay far away and they tell themselves that that is integrity. But after acute harm has passed and healed to a certain degree, avoidance isn't integrity. Full range of capacity and choice is wholeness of being, which presents conscious choice, including integrity. When we stay in denial of or avoid what we are afraid of, the nervous system never learns how to stay intact around it. It collapses or armors instead. It judges. Authority disappears and range narrows. So what happened in that simulator, in that room, wasn't that people learned to lie. In a really fun and edgy way, they learned how to stay centered and connected to self and others while lying existed in the field. They learned to read signals without being overtaken. They learned that coherence doesn't require purity. It requires organization. And that organization lives in the body, in how structure holds, in where attention rests, whether it is given or received, in whether the breath is free or constricted. When those align, pressure moves cleanly. When they don't, even the most honest words fracture on the way out. And this is why emotional disclosure doesn't automatically create trust. Often it does the opposite. When chemistry, unprocessed feeling floods faster than the body can hold, the listener actually feels burdened rather than met. Culture will tell us to be authentic by sharing more, but the body tells a different story. Authenticity does not mean disclosing everything that we feel or think as it occurs moment to moment. Authenticity also doesn't mean being a good person. Being authentic is amoral. Authenticity is unity of the system, coherence. The real value of this work isn't persuasion or performance, it's sovereignty. The ability to remain oriented to what matters to you, even when encountering pressure. To invite without wavering, to lead without forcing. When that capacity is trained, trust stops being something that you try and generate. It becomes something that happens within you and around you, whether or not anyone agrees with you, follows you, or works with you. You simply hold the shape. If this is resonant, it's likely because you already sense that leadership, business, trust, authenticity, they don't live in language alone. They live in the body's ability to stay organized when things get real. That is the terrain that we work best in. We've been working with minds, bodies, businesses, and souls for decades. Our books, The Somatic Skins and Becoming the Grand Formidable, go deeper into how nervous systems organize under pressure, not as theory, but as something trainable and livable. They're field manuals, and you can find them both linked below in the description. And if you already know that more information or books is not what you're looking for, and you want to practice this in real time with other capable humans inside a container where coherence is trained, we open a limited number of seats each season inside of the Prestige. Now is the time for us to talk. So this isn't a course, it's a training ground and a leadership community. And if that sounds good, reach out. All right, them's the plugs. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you for hanging out with me for a bit. Please do consider liking and subscribing. It really does help our channel out a lot. And I will see you next time.